Let's talk about women in prisons, and not exactly about Alex, Piper, Pusey, Dayanara, and Suzanne, although they all represent some of the problems of our prison systems. Let's talk about the fact that the reliance on prisons to address illegal drug trade has dramatically increased the number of women incarcerated globally since 2000. The majority come from contexts of poverty, oppression, and lack of education. Many of them are mothers, or they are involved in the illegal drug economy to cover their needs and those of their families. But prison systems are designed for men. Because of this, on December 21, 2010, the UN General Assembly adopted the Bangkok Rules, a set of 70 rules that seek to adapt prison systems to the needs and experiences of women deprived of liberty. The Bangkok Rules are not binding, but they represent an important advance in the implementation of a gender-sensitive approach to prisons. However, a decade after their adoption, the good intentions of the Bangkok Rules have been undermined by the punitive approach of many drug laws. The disproportionate use of pretrial detention and mandatory minimum prison sentences for drug offenses, and the exclusion of prison benefits disproportionately affects women. Why is this happening? Why has a punitive approach to drug policy put at risk what we could have gained implementing the Bangkok Rules? First, by signing the rules a decade ago, states pledged to promote alternatives to incarceration for women, but in reality, prohibitionist drug laws do the opposite. For example, in the Philippines, drug laws explicitly exclude the possibility of alternatives to custodial measures for people convicted of a drug offense. Second, although the Bangkok Rules state otherwise, prohibitionist drug policies lead to an excessive use of pretrial detention with a disproportionate impact on women. In many Latin American countries, the rate of women in pretrial detention exceeds that of men, while in Cambodia, about half of pregnant women and recent mothers in prison are in pretrial detention. Third, 10 years ago, countries also committed to giving women access to courts and tribunals that take into account mitigating circumstances related to gender and to their responsibilities as mothers. However, in our countries, mandatory minimum prison sentences for drug offenses are still in place, which means that women face disproportionate penalties that are completely disconnected from their particular stories, backgrounds, and circumstances. Fourth, the Bangkok Rules are very clear in that women in prison must have access to voluntary services and care to reduce the harm that can be associated with drug use. We talk about agonist therapy or needle and syringe programs provided together with mental health services and support for education, employment, and housing after release. However, countries with more women in prison have rarely incorporated a gender approach into health attention for drug use. Fifth, alternatives to incarceration are urgent for pregnant women or mothers of young children. Prisons are not made for women, and even less so for mothers and their children. Imprisonment disrupts the lives of their children as well as their relation with other members of the family. Sixth, women face significant obstacles in rebuilding their lives after prison. For this reason, the Bangkok Rules recommend adopting measures such as home leave, open prisons, and community social services to facilitate the transition between prison and life outside of it. But this approach is often underused in much of the world, especially for drug-related crimes. 10 years after the adoption of the Bangkok Rules, it is clear that states will not fulfill their duties without deep reform of the drug laws. We urgently need to decongest prisons and to reduce the number of women entering the carceral system. Normalizing the use of alternatives to incarceration for women who commit non-violent drug-related crimes is also essential, as well as for those who face health risks or who are mothers and caregivers. Our countries must review the use of pretrial detention and remember that it is intended to be an exceptional measure in criminal proceedings. But long-term changes are needed too. Our countries must improve information systems with a gender-sensitive approach for incarcerated women, and judicial authorities must gain better knowledge about the Bangkok Rules. If all of us understand the value of these rules and the harms caused by drug policies and their punitive approach, we will see how to change the harmful upward trend of women's incarceration across the world.